Welcome in, everyone, and thank you for listening to the 326th ever episode of the Missouri Sports Podcast, brought to you by 106 Apparel and recording from the MSP studio in beautiful Springfield, Missouri. I'm one of your hosts, Cameron Albert, alongside my good friend and fellow Mizzou fan, Kyle DeVries. How you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing great, Cameron. Merry Christmas.
Oh, Merry Christmas
Happy
to you.
holidays.
Happy holidays.
To you.
Happy holidays, producer Cameron.
Happy holidays, boys.
Happy holidays to everybody listening. I am on the road to recovery once again.
We
had everyone in my household had COVID.
Wow.
This past week. So it was like a month ago. I was sick for like a really long time, and then we got COVID like a few weeks later, and we're back.
Wow.
But
I guess it's my turn now. You had COVID in like over the summer. What was that? That wasn't that long ago. When was that?
It was sometime in the middle of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In 2024.
yeah, it's not fun.
Yeah.
Definitely the most mild case I think I've had of it, but it's still.
How many times do you think you've had COVID?
I think 3 or 4.
Sheesh.
Yeah, I think I've had it 3 or 4. 3 for sure.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I think I've only had it once, I think.
Lucky you.
That one time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that time.
Yeah. Woo.
Yeah, we all got it at the same time, like at the very beginning, because we were all hanging out
Yeah.
one night, and I think we were just giving it to each other all night long, like just chatting and talking all
Yeah.
night long, just passing COVID around all night long.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we had a COVID party for sure. Unintentionally. Well, Kyle, we don't have too many of these episodes left.
I know. It's crazy.
It is crazy. Will producer Cameron ever recover?
He's absolutely losing it. We're trying to keep it together here.
The camera better be on him. That's all
It's
I care
probably
about.
not. He gets to hide.
It's not.
Wow.
He gets to hide back there.
Incredible.
I don't know what's so funny. I'm just passing COVID around.
Yeah, that's it. I don't want to say what was funny. You're getting me going. Oh, just passing COVID around. Okay.
We've been doing this for like 7 years. We've never had to like stop a show because we're laughing.
We're
about to.
never lost it this hard. We got it. We're all right. We don't have too many of these episodes left. We never made it like completely clear when we were going to stop. We said after Mizzou's bowl game, which is coming up here on the 30th, a week from tonight. Is that right? Monday night bowl game?
Sounds right. 30th. Yep.
Yeah. A week from tonight is Mizzou's bowl game. We will probably do 2 more episodes after this one. So,
It's crazy.
yeah,
We're here.
the countdown begins. And this week, we're going to talk about basketball, a heartbreaking loss to Illinois. We're going to preview the bowl game and cover the latest transfer portal news. And don't forget to subscribe. Oh, how many times will we lose it this episode? In fairness to Cameron, you said we were giving it to each other all night long. Those are the words. That's what you said.
I mean, we were.
We were giving COVID
We didn't
to each
know.
other. And we had no idea.
We had no clue.
We weren't trying to.
Yeah, just blasting each other with it all night long.
Yeah. Just spitting germs in each other's faces. What should we talk about first, Kyle? Basketball?
Yeah, let's get out of the way.
Basketball won a game against Jacksonville State, 83-72. Then lost the bragging rights game to Illinois, 80-77. Jacksonville State gave Missouri a scare, and we said last episode this was not necessarily one to sleep on. A little bit tougher opponent than we're used to so far. And it was back and forth. It was tied at 65 with less than 10 minutes left. Mizzou went on a 17-3 run to close it out, ended up winning by 11. And that just felt really good to be in a close game against a competent opponent, but then go on a run, put the game away late.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like it took way too long to just put it away, and they were kind of freaking me out there
Yep.
with like how long they just kept not pulling away. But yeah, I agree with you. It felt good to just kind of have a struggle and find a way.
And then Bragging Rights game, that was kind of a heartbreaker. Honestly, it was an ugly game. A lot of turnovers, mostly from Illinois. A lot of fouls, mostly from Illinois. Missouri shot 38 free throws, I think. 37 free throws. Illinois was called for 24 fouls. Missouri was called for 19 fouls. And Illinois turned the ball over 17 times. And both teams struggled to shoot the three at times. Illinois started out hot, then they cooled off. Missouri never really found a rhythm from three-point range. Finished the game 3 of 13. And I think it really came down to like three things, basically. Missing at the rim was a huge one. It felt like Missouri was getting the ball down low, but then was just swarmed by Illinois' long arm big guys. And they did a really good job of making everything difficult at the rim.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, Missouri only shot 13 threes.
Yeah.
Only attempted 13. They were clearly like trying to get the ball down low, and they were doing a pretty good job of it. But and even getting good looks at times, but just like not being able to finish. And it felt like, I actually haven't really seen the rebounding numbers, but it actually felt like they did okay for their standards at like getting second chances and stuff like that, and just sometimes missing multiple times and just losing the possession.
Yeah, the offensive rebounding was not as bad as it could have been or has been, especially against Illinois. Illinois had 12 offensive rebounds to Missouri's 9. And it also felt like Missouri wasn't able to capitalize on Illinois' turnovers, 17 turnovers, but Missouri having 9 turnovers of their own. I can think of 2 or 3 times where Illinois turned the ball over, and before Missouri was able to even get a shot off, they turned it right back over. And so there was just stretches where the game was really sloppy. The flow was just disrupted by fouls basically the entire game. Anthony Robinson only played 15 minutes because he got in early foul trouble. Illinois had 2 guys foul out. And I think Robinson only playing 15 minutes definitely hurt. Tony Perkins, though, stepped up and filled that role of primary ball handler, facilitator nicely. He played 37 minutes, finished with a team high 18 points, along with 18 from Mark Mitchell. And Tamar Bates had 17. Like, if you got 3 guys that are kind of scoring like that and can go get you a bucket, unfortunately, Mark Mitchell, like half the time he would go get a bucket. The other half he would go to the free throw line, and he's just not the most reliable.
Yeah, just like force something.
Yeah. He does a really good job of getting to the line, getting into the paint, and putting the other team in a difficult position to either give up a layup or foul them. If he was, I don't know, I feel like we're going to be saying all season long that, but we knew this with him coming in. His shooting stroke just isn't there consistently to be a threat from outside.
It's true. You mentioned like his ability to get fouled though and stuff. I mean, this team is so much better than we were last year at just forcing the defense to guard difficult shots and get to the free throw line. Like, that's a skill, is getting to the free throw line. And I think this team does it so much better than we did last year. Mark Mitchell's a big part of that.
Ken Pom keeps track of free throws attempted per field goal attempted. And Missouri is second in the country right now, getting to the free throw line a lot. And
we had to have been terrible at that last year.
Yeah. Let me look. Yes, 213th in the nation last year. So doing that right. And Illinois, they're a really good defensive team. it took a little while to get going, but Missouri eventually, like, scoring 77 against Illinois is pretty good. I was looking through Illinois' schedule, and they lost to Alabama. Alabama put up 100 on Illinois. That's pretty impressive. And it was starting to slip away there at the end, and then Missouri went on an 11-0 run and made a 3, and they hadn't made a 3 in like 12 minutes of game time or something like that. And I don't know. They were right there with a chance to win it. I mean,
they literally had a chance to, was it tie or win at the buzzer?
Tie.
Yeah. They're right there to the end.
That last, I was pretty frustrated with the fact that Tamar Bates did not get a touch in the last 3 possessions that Missouri had the ball. There was the baseline out of bounds play they drew up for Trent Pierce. We missed the 3.
Which that was a very difficult shot.
Yeah.
And probably didn't need to take it with, I mean, that's a play that you draw up when you've got 2 seconds on the clock left.
Yeah.
But
if you're drawing up a play for a 3, I'd rather Bates be taking it. But whatever. Then there was a stretch where it was a little bit of a scramble, and I think they needed to just chill out a little bit, where Mark Mitchell took the 3 late.
Yeah.
That possession, Tamar Bates did not touch the ball. And then after Illinois, the point guard missed that last free throw, the first free throw they had missed all game, and they had a chance to tie it. A good look from Jacob Cruz, but again, and there wasn't much time left, but I feel like you got to try to find Bates. If he had touched the ball on one of those possessions, I would just felt a lot better about that last stretch there.
Yeah, I think of those 3 situations you just mentioned, like the first one, Trent Pierce, like I can understand like on an inbounds play, getting kind of like maybe a surprise candidate to kind of leak out and get open, and Pierce can make that shot.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand coach kind of drawing that up for him. He probably knows Bates is going to be covered, and he's the focus. The last play of the game, it's like time is expiring, just somebody get up a shot, and it was a pretty good look actually. But
agreed.
I think the one play that really might have cost us the game was Mark Mitchell kind of forcing up a 3 and it was to take the lead too. Like we did not need a 3. So that was kind of a killer.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like, I don't know, it just, his confidence, Mark Mitchell as a player, he's got the ability, he's got the confidence. I hope that it just doesn't feel like a thing that he'll figure out during the course of this season. I don't think it's going to click and he's suddenly going to be making 33 to 35% of his 3-point attempts.
Yeah.
But they, and also, just missing at the free throw line. Mark Mitchell himself, 6 of 12 from the line. Trent Pierce had those 2. He got blocked. They called a foul. The play looked pretty clean. It was a classic ball don't lie situation where he just went up there and almost airballed the first free throw.
Yeah.
And 0 2 from the free throw line for him. But I'd like to, I don't know. I think you could maybe question coach on leaving Anthony Robinson out there when he picked up his 3rd foul in the second half. And then once he picked up the 4th, he was out for the rest of the game. So I don't know. He never really got into the flow of the game because of foul trouble. So maybe you just abandon that altogether. Yeah. When he can't get it going.
Yeah. Tony Perkins had a good game. And it kind of picked up some slack there from the point guard position. But yeah, it definitely hurt that Robinson never got into the flow of the game.
Also, they went away from Josh Gray. He just played 12 minutes and wasn't really a factor on 0 rebounds. He took that one kind of long too at the close to the shot clock expiring. So that's interesting that they just kind of went away from him in the second half.
Yeah, it feels like maybe Josh Gray might be kind of a better candidate to take on a larger role when we're playing against a team with kind of a more stationary big man. Like obviously Kansas, they're running everything through Dickinson.
Right.
He was kind of plugging up the middle and making things hard for, a big-bodied player, but Illinois obviously kind of spread you out type of offense more so than Kansas, and maybe coach just felt like we're not getting enough from him against this type of offense.
Yeah, need the athleticism out there.
Yeah.
But Illinois, very good squad. They're gonna win a lot of games in the Big Ten this year. They're looking like a tournament team. So this is not a bad loss by any means. And one thing that I was looking at, or I was thinking through, just what Dennis Gates has done already, beating Kansas this year makes him a coach now that for the Missouri Tigers, he has won an NCAA tournament game and has a win over Kansas. Konzo Martin didn't do either of those things. Kim Anderson didn't do either one of those things. Frank Haith beat Kansas, did not win a tournament game. You have to go back to Mike Anderson.
It's crazy to think that Frank Haith didn't win a tournament game.
Yeah, I know.
That's sad.
Yeah, it is. It is. You have to go back to Mike Anderson to find a Mizzou basketball coach that in their entire career beat Kansas and won an NCAA tournament game. And Dennis, there was a good stretch there. Norm Stewart did it.
How far do you have to go back to find somebody that didn't win a conference game?
That's a
and
good point.
was true on those other things.
Surely that's never happened.
That's gotta be scoregami.
Yes. Win a tournament game, beat Kansas, and also have a season where you did not win a conference game. Incredible.
One of a kind, Dennis Gates.
Absolutely. My point is just, I don't know. That's pretty cool that he's already done that, and this is just his third season. And we're on the right track. Top 50 KenPom team, 10-2.
Yeah, this team is so much, obviously, the bar was incredibly, incredibly low. But this team is actually, I'm going to feel like I'm going to be engaged the whole season. Look forward to every game. I don't like feeling like I felt last year where it's like, well, I don't even know if we're playing tonight kind of feeling or whatever. So,
right.
Yeah.
One more non-conference game against 271st ranked Alabama State, and then a road matchup against Auburn. Auburn, the number one team in KenPom.
Getting right into it.
Janai Broom.
I cannot believe he still plays for Auburn, man. He's got to be like 45 years old.
He's number one on KenPom's Player of the Year rankings right now.
I believe it. One little quick note I think we forgot to mention about Illinois was that they were 22 of 22 from free throw. They obviously missed the very last one of the game. Missouri is like the number 2 team in the country at, I don't know how to phrase it, but like they give up like the best percentage of free throw shooting.
Yes. Yeah. So that's another thing KenPom tracks is defensive free throw percentage. So opponents are shooting 80.7% from the free throw line against Missouri.
It's ridiculous.
So that's second highest in the country.
And that like factors into your defensive rating, which I think is funny, but it is interesting just to keep track of that. And like, wow, we're just getting really unlucky, I guess.
It feels like something that has to normalize a little bit, but somebody's going to be the worst.
Somebody is going to be.
So SEC schedule is right around the corner, and the SEC is incredible at basketball this year.
Are there like 10 ranked SEC teams right now or something?
Yes. The worst team in KenPom in the SEC is South Carolina, and they're ranked 65th. That's insane.
Wow.
Yeah. It'll be really interesting to see how much the lower ranked, like what's considered an upset in the SEC in conference play this year is going to be different from normal. It'll be very interesting to see how much parity there really is in the final standings, or if there's a few teams at the top that run away with it, because really the conference is stacked. Mm-hmm. Okay, moving on. Let's just briefly talk about the Music City Bowl. Missouri's going to play Iowa in the Music City Bowl. Let's talk about Iowa a little bit. It's a little weird because they're not going to have their starting quarterback, which is really not that big of a deal for Iowa because anybody could do what they're doing at the quarterback spot. But more importantly, they'll be without their star running back. Can you remind me about him? Caleb Johnson.
Yeah. Yeah, Johnson's a stud. He's on his way to the NFL. He's probably one of the best running backs in the class, and it's a strong class. So I'm happy we're not going to have to face him.
He had 1,500 rushing yards this year. And he had more rushing yards than McNamara, their quarterback that's in the transfer portal, had passing yards this season.
That's crazy.
It is insane. Johnson had 21 touchdowns, rushing touchdowns.
That's got to be like 70 to 80% of all their touchdowns, honestly.
Yeah.
Like on a team that doesn't score many touchdowns.
Right. Yeah. So Iowa, like for several years now, has been known as a team that will win games, like 9-6 or 10-7. And they're known for a really good defense and running the ball. If they're going to have any sort of offense, it's going to be on the ground.
Yeah.
They had that this year. So I don't know what you talk about with Iowa when their quarterback's gone, their running back's gone. We're going to see some of their backups. And Missouri, I mean, you got Brady Cook playing in this game. You got Theo Weiss playing in the game. You got Nate Noel and Carroll playing in the game. So you feel like this is a game that Missouri should win.
Yeah, it does feel like that. Iowa's got a great defense. They really have a chance to just totally muck this game up. Like, I mean, we might be looking at a really ugly game here.
Yeah.
But, Kirk Ferentz has been there for a really long time. Their head coach, he's been the coach there since 1999.
That's insane.
And their defensive coordinator, Phil Parker, he started coaching there in 1999. He was the defensive backs coach for 13 seasons before he finally became their DC in 2012.
Wow.
So they're kind of a model of consistency when it comes to coaching. And I mean, man, this is talk about like a change in college football. We're kind of seeing that like old guard be phased out a little bit, where the Nick Sabans of the world are kind of just like, you know what? I did my time. I barely recognize this game anymore. I would not be surprised if we start seeing that with Kirk Ferentz here in like the next few years, because he kind of seems like a guy that probably doesn't love the way college football's going. But dude knows how to coach. Like, and I have no problem believing that no matter who they throw out there in this game, they'll find a way to make it competitive.
This is a bit of a tangent, but I often think about, or when stuff like that comes up with Nick Saban and that sort of like era of big time coaches, Gary Pinkel was right there. Like same, he came up with Saban from Kent State, yeah. And I just sometimes wonder, like, if in an alternate timeline, he's still the Mizzou coach, like he'd be dealing with all this stuff, maybe retiring when stuff with NIL gets to be a little too much, or recruiting changes so much. Yeah. And I don't know. It's just interesting to think about. He would be one of these guys that had been at the same place for so long.
Right. Yeah, you do not see this anymore at all. Like, yeah, Phil Parker being the DB's coach, just a position. I mean, not to throw shade or anything, but to be in the same position as a position coach for 13 seasons before you finally get your shot at the defensive coordinator job. I mean, you just never see that anymore. So that's pretty cool that those guys have been coaching together for a really long time.
I'm putting you on the spot here, but Iowa, I feel like you would be looking at like all season long, you'd be looking at like team rankings for like penalties and stuff. Wasn't Iowa one of the least penalized teams in the country?
Yeah. Yep. They're very, very disciplined when it comes to penalties. I think they are, at least at one point, you're right. They were easily the number one team in like not committing penalties.
I was looking at their team defense stats. They're giving up 17 points per game. That's good for 9th in the country. Mizzou, not much worse. They were giving up 20 points per game. They're 18th in the country. So two good defenses. I feel like if you're Coach Drinkwitz and this Mizzou staff, I feel like you can kind of just play your game. And if Iowa wants to muck it up, and like Iowa's only hope is to kind of like play the time of possession game and run the ball and trying to take the air out of the game a little bit.
Which Missouri does that better than anything.
Exactly. So
yeah.
I feel like if Missouri leans into that, then especially with who Iowa doesn't have on offense, I think Mizzou wins this game convincingly.
6-3.
Honestly, like the score will not show how much Missouri dominates this game. That's what I'm predicting.
I think that's a good way to put it. I think that the score is going to be close, but Missouri is going to dominate.
Let me go 16-6 Missouri.
Okay. Yeah, give me 17-13 Missouri. It's kind of a fun opponent. I mean, fun in the way that it's like someone we never play.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's kind of fun to play like a Big Ten school and stuff, but like not fun at all as far as like stylistically.
Yeah.
Like, and like some of their best players are, transferring or going to the NFL or whatever. So it's not like a hard hitting matchup in that way, but I'd like to get the win regardless.
Yeah. I think if Missouri was playing like a high flying offense with a suspect defense, that might be like more exciting in theory. But I also feel like it would open up Missouri to being exposed potentially.
Yeah, I like our chances of winning against Iowa more just because I think it's like a similar style.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like a team that like we should be putting up points against. Like we've seen Missouri kind of fail against those like archetype of teams this season.
Right.
So I want to 100% agree with you.
Last year's offense, yeah, give me a bowl
Exactly.
matchup against a lacking defense that we can just go to town on.
Right.
But this year, I'm okay with a safer.
The rock fight.
Yeah, I want to get that 10th win, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
I want to be able to look at sportsreference.com and see the list of all the seasons and see an 11-win season followed by a 10-win season.
Yeah. Bowl games are sometimes it feels like they're not that important, but I think they stick out in your mind, years and years later. And I know maybe conferences don't mean as much as they maybe used to, but I still think it's fun to beat like a Big Ten team or something like that.
Yeah, and a border state as well.
Yeah.
We're all about those border state rivalries.
Absolutely.
Might as well throw Iowa in there.
I agree.
So we're both predicting wins. And Kyle, I wanted to take a moment because we all know this will be like Luther Burden. He's done. He's not playing in this bowl game. His last game was against Arkansas. And I feel like as a podcast, like Brady Cook, he's been on this Mizzou team for 4 seasons, the majority of the time that we've been doing this podcast. And it just almost feels fitting that we're going out with Brady,
Yeah.
And so we all know he's been climbing the record books for Mizzou history. And I just wanted to put that in perspective a little bit. So I just was looking at his ranks on the Mizzou career leaderboards. And there's some interesting ones here, I think, that kind of put Brady Cook in a different light if you've been sleeping on him a little bit. Not that we have here, but tell me what you think. So right off the bat, Brady Cook is now 4th. We're just looking at quarterbacks. 4th all time in games played at 46, just behind Chase Daniel, Drew Lock, and Brad Smith. So elite company right there in games played. He's 4th behind those same 3 guys in career completions and attempts. He's number 3 in passing yards behind just Chase Daniel and Drew Lock. So he passes Brad Smith there in passing yards. And he is 5th all time in passing touchdowns. James Franklin is ahead of him there with 51 to Cook's 48. So we're seeing a top 5 all-time Mizzou quarterback here in Brady Cook in those career numbers. Another thing that I thought was super interesting, he's up there with all those guys, but his 15 interceptions in his career is less than a bunch of guys way lower than him on the rest of those career stats. So his interceptions is fewer than James Franklin, Matty Mock, Blaine Gabbert, some older guys, Jeff Handy, Corby Jones. Those guys all had fewer attempts, fewer completions, fewer games played, but still had more interceptions than Brady Cook. Also, it's kind of interesting how much Connor Bazelak is like right down there in that next tier down on a lot of these lists. He's like 8th to 12th.
That's really weird.
In a lot of these career stats, which is kind of interesting. Also, Brady Cook's 7.9 career yards per attempt is tied with Drew Lock for highest yards per attempt all time for Mizzou quarterbacks. I have one qualifier there I put with at least 700 attempts, because there's some guys that don't have very many attempts that have a higher yards per attempt. But
Yeah, I would not have guessed that.
yeah, so Cook higher than Chase Daniel. I think Daniel's at like 7.8. So you're right there, but Cook's at the top. And Brady Cook is second all time, only to Chase Daniel in passing efficiency rating. He is also one of only 4 quarterbacks to lead the Missouri Tigers to 11 or more wins in a season. You got Brady Cook, Matty Mock, James Franklin, and Chase Daniel. The only ones to ever do it. Brady Cook, the legend. Mizzou legend.
Yeah, I
We
think
get to watch him play one more time.
one more time. Yeah, I hope we send him out with a W for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll be talking about Brady Cook for a long time, and I think we talked about it a lot, but just kind of the intangibles that he brings is what really, really makes him unique. And it's like all of those, and performance-wise, he's right there. I mean, you just listed. It's not just 1 or 2 metrics; it's across the board. He's hanging tight with some of the legends of Missouri past for sure, and deserves to be thought about that way. And took us to some really meaningful games last year and almost this year, really. And so it was in a lot of important games for us. And but I think I'll definitely remember Brady Cook for just his leadership and kind of just like undying pursuit of making Missouri a better football team, and his loyalty to the state and to the university, and him just being like really open about that. And,
Yeah.
he had to win the job last year. Like there was like up until week 1, we weren't really sure who was going to play quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And so to considering that, not that long ago in the grand scheme of things, like we weren't really sure who was going to play quarterback for Missouri to where we are now. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. There's that picture of him in the Blaine Gabbert jersey when he was like 10 years old or something. Yeah, this was, he's said it time and time again, this was always his dream. And I'm sure there was a time when he was on this roster where it was like, well, there's guys ahead of me here on the quarterback spot. I don't know if it's really going to happen like that. But he stuck it out, and Coach Drink obviously trusted him. There was, I think it was the off season last year that he was working out in St. Louis with Luther and Mookie and some of those receivers, some of those St. Louis guys. And I feel like the receiving core has always had his back, and they've always just said, that's our guy.
Yeah.
And when you see that over and over again in interviews and off-season stuff, that, I don't know, that should have been all we needed to see as fans. Like if the receiving core is rallying around this guy and saying, that's our guy, that should have been enough for all of us to buy in. But man, yeah, it wasn't until probably after the Kansas State game last year that it was like, okay.
Yeah.
He silenced the doubters, but he had to do it a few times after that too.
Yep.
So that, but Brady Cook is out of eligibility after this game, and that means the coaching staff was looking for a new quarterback, and they got one. Let's talk about the transfer portal a little bit. We'll kick it off with the addition of Penn State quarterback Beau Pribula. He has spent the last 2 seasons as backup quarterback at Penn State. He has seen the field, kind of some garbage time opportunities. They had some packages that they got him involved running the ball, not in garbage time. And then also he had the entire second half to himself against Wisconsin when their starting quarterback was out with injury. And in that game, he was 11 of 13 passing, 98 yards, 28 rushing yards. So he's got a little bit of experience. Not a super highly rated recruit out of high school, stayed close to home in Pennsylvania, and hasn't been asked to do too much yet. And their current starter announced he was coming back next year, and that caused Pribula to enter the transfer portal, and he's at Mizzou.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, watching his tape and seeing some stuff that he's done in his time at Penn State, I mean, you said it. He hasn't really been asked to do a whole lot. It doesn't look like, at least in his opportunities that he's had, that he has like a super like explosive arm necessarily. Like he just hasn't done a whole lot of like deep passing or anything like that. He is accurate. Like he has like a career like 62% completion rate, I believe. But I think I think his touchdown to interception ratio is like 5 touchdowns to 1 interception. So I'm not saying he can't pass or he's not a good passer or anything like that. He just, in his career so far up to this point, he hasn't done a lot of like down the field passing. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of works into Missouri's game. And I think Missouri will have the wide receivers to allow for him to be able to do that. But what I like most about his game is just his athleticism and his ability to run the ball. Yeah, he's definitely he can move some people. He can definitely run you over. He's got some good speed too.
Yeah, I mentioned that they had been working in some packages with him running the ball, fairly regularly. He had 570 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns in his career so far. So they were using him in some tricky ways to try to score in the red zone and run some option stuff like that.
If you spent any time watching the NFL, like legitimately kind of shades of Taysom Hill a little bit, where he can probably, like if you run some wildcat, like he can definitely throw. He'll probably catch even a little bit. So and Penn State was using him that way a little bit.
So is it like the end of an interesting saga with Missouri trying to court a transfer portal quarterback? And they had, I mean, you want to be in the playoff, but I feel like Missouri capitalized on the opportunity to really sink their teeth into the transfer portal while some of these teams were still having to prepare for the playoff. And Fernando Mendoza was another name, the Cal quarterback transfer that was around the Missouri program. I think he did visit actually in the last few days. And so there was it sounded like through the rumor mill and stuff that Mendoza maybe was the top choice, but he wasn't ready to commit. And they maybe had another guy in Pribula who was like ready to come on board. And
they didn't want to lose them both.
Right. You don't want to lose them both. When we were talking about it on Discord and stuff, I was kind of thinking like, well, I think you wait to see what Mendoza wants to do here. But as soon as you feel like he's slipping away, you got to make a move.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they kind of, I could see them kind of presenting that to Mendoza when he was on his visit. Like, are you going to commit right now? If you're going to take another visit, we're probably going to go with this other guy. And it seems like something like that is how it might have played out. And but not a disappointing pickup. I think Mendoza, if you get someone like him, he has the production already at a high level. He can make all the throws and stuff. So I feel like that was like, if he commits, you don't need to worry about who the starter is going to be next year. There's not really much of a competition to be had. With Beau Pribula, I feel like there's still a conversation to be had. What's Sam Horn looking like in the preseason?
I agree completely. I don't think Pribula is just going to walk in and be the starter day one. That could happen.
Yeah.
But he's going to have to fight for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting. I would not even, I mean, we're really getting ahead of ourselves here, but like I would not be shocked if they find ways to play 2 quarterbacks next year as well.
That'd be interesting.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm a Sam Horn truther, and my love for him will never die.
You're not giving up on him.
I will not give up on Sam Horn.
So not only did Missouri lock up their potential quarterback of the future, just like we've been talking about, we expected them to maybe go out and get a number 1 wide receiver and a number 1 running back. They've done that now. We know they added wide receiver from Mississippi State, Kevin Coleman. I think we talked about him last episode. He brings in 74 receptions, 932 yards, and 6 touchdowns just from this past season at Mississippi State. And we know Mississippi State was no good, but he was a bright spot on an otherwise pretty terrible team. But what maybe, I don't know if it's more exciting. I think getting Kevin Coleman on board is super exciting. But getting the guy that can walk in and most likely be the number 1 running back, and he will be a sophomore. We're talking about ULM transfer running back Ahmad Hardy. put up 1,350 yards on the ground as a freshman this past season, led the Sun Belt in rushing yards. And Missouri now has this habit of just going and getting the best running back out of the Sun Belt, say, welcome to the SEC. Let's see what you can do around behind a SEC offensive line.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about the Hardy pickup.
Yeah, same. He's a beast.
Yeah.
He's a bruiser for sure.
And fits Missouri's scheme. I mean, I think I read on Rock M Nation or something, 60% of his carries were outside zone plays. So, and I feel like if there's of all the things that I would be confident in Drinkwitz and this coaching staff, I would be most confident in their ability at this point to go grab a running back that they know they can plug into their system.
Yeah.
And he's going to be dominant.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see this offense being really, really run heavy next year. Like if assuming like Pribula is our quarterback and Hardy's our starting running back, we're going to be running the ball a lot.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's totally fine with me. Like I would definitely take the under. I'm not sure Kevin Coleman's going to reach his reception count that he had this year. Like I just don't think those kind of opportunities are going to be there. But like I could see that working really, really well just with a quarterback and a running back that can both run that way. I mean, it's going to be really hard to stop.
And I would like to, maybe some read option or some like real speed option pitches and stuff might be an option for some of the red zone woes that the offense had this past year.
Yeah.
If you're worried about throwing an interception in the end zone or something like that, when the field gets condensed there in the red zone.
Yeah.
If you can get creative with option run plays, because that's where I felt like Missouri just could not get over the hump. You could tell they didn't want to be throwing it too much in that area.
Yeah.
But teams were able to just kind of key in on the run.
They became one-dimensional.
Yeah,
for sure.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so if you still can only run the ball in the red zone, but you've got this option dynamic, maybe that opens it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Let me see here. I want to stay on the offensive side of the ball, and I think I just have two offensive linemen. Wake Forest tackle Keegan Trost and Michigan center Dominic. How did we decide to pronounce his name?
I don't remember.
Producer Cameron, do you remember? What was the Italian way?
I forget what it looks like.
We were practicing and we already forgot.
Giudice is like the Americanized version.
Yeah.
We were going to try to nail the...
Deche. Something.
Oh, yeah.
Jujuche.
Yeah, Giudice. Something like that.
I don't know.
We were going to try to get the Italian pronunciation. We failed. Anyway, him...
Dominic G.
And Keegan Trost. Let's see. Giudice has 2 seasons of eligibility. He's listed at 6'4", 310. Started 5 games at center for Michigan this past season. Good depth there.
Yeah.
And then Trost, he's had an incredible journey. Started his college career at Morgan State. I don't even know where that is, what division, what level. Indiana State. He moved up to Indiana State.
FCS.
And then last season was at Wake Forest, and now will finish his career at Mizzou.
That's a journey.
Yeah. So I don't know. Transfer portal offensive linemen are not like the splashiest thing, or flashiest pickups, but good to get some depth there.
Yeah, you need it.
On the defensive side of the ball, some additions at linebacker. Nebraska inside linebacker Makai Bayer, 6'2", 230. 1 year left for him. He was a big contributor as a sophomore and junior for Nebraska. And then West Virginia linebacker Josiah Trotter, son of NFL linebacker Jeremiah Trotter. Was that his name?
Sounds right.
Mm-hmm.
Josiah Trotter had 93 tackles as a redshirt freshman this past season at West Virginia.
Yeah, this was probably a pickup that Missouri had to spend up for. Obviously, we don't know those numbers, and we never will. But if I had to guess, this was probably one of the bigger purchases, if you want to put it that way, this offseason. Like, this is a phenomenal pickup. Mm-hmm. And both of these guys, both of these linebackers are really, really solid. But Trotter in particular still has at least 2 years, maybe 3 years of eligibility left. An absolute stud. So, yeah, I'm really excited. I mean, I've not really felt like our linebacker room has been a strength for probably at least 2 seasons. But both of these guys could change that pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. 2 years ago, like Hopper was really solid, but he wasn't healthy down the stretch. It is interesting how Missouri has just been grabbing linebackers out of the transfer portal and been like, okay, you're our guy.
Yeah.
Like Corey Flagg, Hopper, Chuck Hicks out of the transfer portal. Just for the last few years now, it's been like, and maybe you could question the development of the freshmen that they're recruiting, or the high schoolers that they're recruiting. Obviously, lost Brayshawn Littlejohn.
Yeah.
But
feels like they've recruited a lot of like outside linebackers, a couple of like more interior guys that didn't really pan out or just haven't had time to develop yet or still really young. But I think Chowder's going to come in and just be the heart and soul of the defense next year.
Love it. A couple of edge rusher additions. We have App State transfer Nate Johnson. He had 10 sacks in 2 seasons at Appalachian State. And then from the D2 ranks, Northwest Missouri State's Langdon Kitchen, originally from Huntsville, Missouri. He's listed at 6'7", 270, had 5.5 sacks this past season for the Bearcats.
Well, Bearcats, they seem to always know what they're doing down there.
Mm-hmm.
They're always good.
So bolstering the edge position after losing 2 young guys in Waneri and Jalen Brown. And we were talking about that position group before we started recording, and you got to remember Dara Smith missed the season with injury after transferring from Georgia, and you got to imagine he was going to contribute quite a bit. So it's kind of like delayed gratification, but he'll be back next year, ready to play most likely. So I don't know. It sucks seeing Waneri and Brown leave, but getting a little influx of talent from the portal and with Smith coming back from injury. And then a couple guys in the defensive secondary, Virginia Tech safety Mose Phillips III. He has 2 years of eligibility remaining. He had 63 tackles and 1 interception last year. And then Northern Illinois safety Santana Banner. They call him Beans.
Why do they call him Beans?
Don't know. That's what they call him.
It's a good name.
54 tackles and an interception in his redshirt freshman season for Northern Illinois.
Yeah, pretty exciting group here. Mose, I mean, is there any better name than that?
Mose Phillips III.
Yeah,
Love it.
Great name. Very balanced here in offense and defense. I would assume Missouri's probably still not done. It's very exciting when we've got like blatant holes to fill, like on both offense and defense, and we just go and find a guy that seemingly is a perfect fit.
Yeah,
and hopefully everybody stays healthy because all these guys are needed.
Yeah. Do you feel like generally though, like this staff's overall philosophy with recruiting and the balance between incoming high schoolers and the transfer portal, do you like where they're at right now with this?
Yeah, I do, honestly. And it, to me, like this class signals to me that like we're not going to do a rebuild next year. Like we might not know who our quarterback is, but we're still going to try our best. Like, there's no number 1 pick for the worst team in college football or anything. Like it doesn't do you any good to wave the white flag before the season starts, like some NFL teams might do or something. But I mean, they're trying to make the best of the situation. I think the quarterback's still a big question mark, but like I'm really excited about a lot of these guys, and Pribula could definitely fill the role of exactly what we need. So, it's tough right now. Like we were talking about, like you almost weirdly put yourself at a disadvantage when you go out there and you get a really talented freshman, like true freshman player, because those players, like in like their circles and stuff, like they really come in thinking like I'm the best player in this class. I'm going to change this program. And a lot of them are not realistic about like how long it takes to develop to become like a grown man that can compete in the SEC. Some of the very best players in the country maybe can do that, but it's really just not that common. And
it varies by position too.
Exactly. So you see like these true freshmen who have high expectations like come in, and then just after 1 year, they're like, this is not for me. They're not giving me my shot. And so it's just weird. Like, I feel like that's actually something that we're seeing is like,
Yeah.
you really almost don't want the first stab at some of these guys. You kind of
Right.
want to be like, you want to be on the rebound where you've got this disgruntled freshman somewhere and you're able to go to them and say like, hey, you're getting like mistreated. And like, we wouldn't let that happen to you. Like we would play you if you played at Missouri or if you played at X school.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think Missouri's capitalizing on that really well where, maybe they're going out and finding a disgruntled player who's not getting playing time. Maybe like Pribula might be somebody like that. Or they're just going and finding a really like highly experienced, highly productive player like Trotter.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like the players, I feel like this is true not just this season, but like this year in particular, with losing Winery Brown and Kawan Lacey, who we hadn't touched on yet, and throw Courtney Crutchfield in there as well. All true freshmen or or players that redshirted this year. That it's easy for those other schools to come along and be like, yeah, we can recruit you like a high schooler, basically.
Yeah.
Promise you all these things, and honestly, with Jaylen Brown going to South Carolina, that one hurts.
Yeah.
Like that's one where I'm like, oh, I'm not going to be able to root for you as hard as I might have if you'd gone elsewhere. But I'm pretty interested to see what Ole Miss does with Kawan Lacey. It'll be interesting to see where Courtney Crutchfield winds up. Wish the best for him, but like best player out of Arkansas.
Yeah.
We're taking the best player out of Arkansas, and he's just buried on the Missouri depth chart.
Exactly. Those guys are perfect examples, though, of just like probably, there's a good chance 2, 3, maybe all 4 of those guys are turning into great players at Missouri if this is 10 years ago or 20 years ago, where it's like players don't come in and expect to immediately contribute, and they just kind of do their job and develop and stuff. But there's a really good chance that those guys are all going to go become great players elsewhere.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of unfortunate for Missouri, but Missouri's got to be taking advantage of that on the other side, and I think they are. So,
and I like that Missouri seems to be not necessarily just going, well, who's some high upside guys that haven't produced yet, but we want to take a shot on in the portal. Missouri feels like they have the privilege of going, who has already done it? Who has been some of the most productive players that are ready to come play in the SEC, like Trotter, like Hardy. So those guys, when Missouri is on that end of it, being like, we have the privilege of letting you go produce somewhere else, and then we're going to scour the country and find the guys that fit our system that we want to shell out the NIL money for.
Yeah.
And I'm always fascinated by the mystery that is the NIL market.
Yeah.
How it differs from high schoolers to transfers to whatever. Like, I don't know. Like if you're Kawan Lacey, I doubt you're making a ton of NIL money at Mizzou this past season. And if Ole Miss is able to come through and be like, hey, listen, we got a spot for you and we got this amount of cash.
Yeah. Of course you're taking that. And he's from Ole Miss. He's from Mississippi.
Yeah.
And everything. So
yeah. If you get to go home and get a bag, even if it's small, who knows? I mean,
literally, who knows? I don't know. But you just really don't have the time sometimes to take shots on high upside guys that need development. Like, just why waste your time? A lot of times those guys are not going to stick around long enough to see if it works out. And Missouri's had a lot of success just saying, all right, we can plug and play this guy from ULM. Let's go get him.
Yeah. We're just pilfer the Sun Belt for everything they've got.
Yeah. No drama. Like, hey man, you're going to play immediately.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. You've already done it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm super excited to watch Hardy run behind Missouri's offensive line next year. Feels like I don't know. I was trying to think of like, where's a position that they might still need to add, that maybe I'm already feeling a little disappointed about. Maybe offensive line. Maybe I would have liked to see a splash
tackle.
Yeah. Out of the portal.
Yeah.
But
I could still see that. I could still maybe see maybe like a blocking tight end or something like that. Obviously, Norfleet fills the reception tight end role really well, but wouldn't be surprised to see maybe a older, experienced tight end or maybe a tackle as well.
But really, a well-rounded group of transfers coming in and not losing anybody that felt like next season hinged on their performance. I mean, you never want to be in that position where just a couple guys make or break your season. But looking through like all of the SEC, I feel like Missouri has done well in the transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, we were talking about this trophy here before we started recording, and how we were thinking about maybe picking some playoff games or the SEC bowl games and stuff. But we already missed one with Florida playing. We didn't ask anybody for picks or anything. And if I'm being honest, I don't want you to have a chance to win this thing.
That's fair.
What do you think?
Yeah, we. I mean, you're probably noticing this episode coming out at like a weird time. Like normally we publish on a Thursday night or Friday or something, and so we had to skip last week's episode because I had COVID. So we missed the first round of playoff games. Like we weren't able to pick those. It feels a little bit weird to just start picking like halfway through the tournament. So
yeah,
I agree. It might be time to just give it to whoever's currently leading.
And that's the Patreon guest pickers. Is that right, Producer Cameron?
Yes, they are winning by 1 point currently.
Wow. Congratulations.
You almost had him, Kyle.
It's very sad.
It's your guys' trophy. We'll send it to you in the mail, and you can
pay us back for shipping.
Yep, you can reimburse us for shipping, and you can just exchange it amongst yourselves.
Cut it up into little pieces, and
yeah, you could melt it down. You could all make a ring out of it or something.
That would be sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that material is meltable, whatever it's made of.
This is high quality.
You could do
pure
it's like
bronze.
High quality.
Yeah, melt it
bronze.
down to a ring, and it's like the Lord of the Rings, like little markings on the ring. It's like Patreon pickers champs 2024.
But we keep one ring, the one ring, and we control them all.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. Anyway, congratulations, Patreon guest pickers. You had an incredible season. Kyle put up the best effort that we could muster.
I did the best I possibly could.
You
it
still
wasn't
came
enough.
out on top.
Wasn't enough.
What have you thought about the 12-team playoff so far?
Well, I mean, I don't know how many people listening to this have listened for multiple years, but I've been a pretty open proponent of the 12-team playoff for a long time. I feel like as soon as the 4-team playoff came out, I was thinking this is not enough.
Yeah.
And we need more. With that being said, it's not been a great look for the 12-team bros.
Feels like 4 teams too many.
Yeah. And I mean, I honestly feel like I haven't enough time to like really flesh out like a good take, but I still also wonder if like the seeding they just didn't get the seeding right.
Yeah.
And maybe they just didn't get the right teams in there. Like SMU, like I don't know, maybe shouldn't have been there to begin with. I don't know. It feels like every single bowl season or playoff season we're saying stuff like, see, they didn't belong there, like whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe SMU earned the spot. I don't know.
We
But
needed Alabama.
I think most people probably could have guessed SMU was not going to do well in that game against Penn State, and it didn't go well for them. So, yeah, I think maybe there's still some fine-tuning with maybe the seeding situation, or maybe they just didn't get the teams right. But I still think the 12-team playoff is far and away the best option and gives us more action.
Yeah. Needed South Carolina in there.
Needed Missouri in there.
Needed Missouri, South Carolina, and Alabama. That would have been the perfect playoff.
There you go.
Yeah. No, I like the 12-team playoff. It just it feels predictable. It's
unfortunately, it just didn't. And I don't want to be too like results oriented. We've watched 3 games.
Yeah.
In one season. So.
Yeah. I saw somebody posting like the college game day crew were like all in unison. They all picked the same teams, and those teams won. Yeah. It was just like the Vegas favorites all won. So
yeah.
But hopefully we get more fireworks. I can't wait to see what Boise State's able to do.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
That was another thing about, if I might, gas up my guy Ahmad Hardy a little bit more. He was second in the nation in broken tackles, to second only behind Ashton Jeanty for Boise State.
Yeah. Pretty incredible.
I'm excited. Is that it then? Are we done here?
I think we're done. Any more COVID jokes?
Oh, man. We could do COVID jokes all night long. Special thank you to our Patreon supporters. Britt Treese, Ryan Demore, Tristan Ben Smith, Parker Deddy, JD, Tim Keens, Tyler Harsel, Brandon Garofalo, Brandon Hanks, Matthew Tilley, Luis Hernandez, Joshua Jacobson, Devontae, and Aaron Houlihan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. We appreciate you. We love you. And you can find this podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We're on Twitter at Mizzou Sports Pod. And you can, of course, email us at MissouriSportsPod@gmail.com.
You can find our t-shirts and stickers on our online shop, MissouriSportsPod.BigCartel.com.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. We will see you next week after a win.